Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me for my Tribe Talk. Throughout my time here, I've attempted to approach my wicked problem of income inequality, which refers to the extent in which income is distributed in an uneven manner amongst the population. So today we're going to discuss the issue in a bit more detail and how I feel that we can approach it from a localized perspective. Of note, it should be understood that there's multiple different types of income inequality that can be addressed, and these include, but are of course not limited to, inequalities that span across the globe between nations and differing levels of equality that represent themselves there, intercommunity inequality issues, inequality within the workplace, and of course inequality amongst genders and so forth. So the idea of income inequality seems kind of insurmountable at surface. So you can see here on the slide, large-scale problems don't necessarily require large-scale solutions, but they do require small-scale solutions within a large-scale framework. So how would you even begin to approach such a complex societal issue with so many factors that are ingrained at differing levels within society? So income inequality isn't a problem that seems to be uniform across the board, but by nature it impacts our communities differently based on their location, demographics, and their overall economic structure. We're going to attempt to scale the societal issue to a more measurable and achievable goal by placing our initial focus on streamlining change in one single area of the country. And our first location is going to be in Appalachian communities, specifically in eastern Kentucky. These are areas that once seemed to thrive financially due to a robust coal mining industry. And after rampant unemployment, thanks to the coal's industry decline, over the past few decades or so, the state of Kentucky at large and smaller towns across are dealing with multiple factors: opioid abuse, aging infrastructure, and of course, a less than ideal lower education system. So the approach is quite simple, but as the quote here applies, addressing one portion of the problem within the larger framework could potentially lead us to approaching each subgroup within the society with a more targeted focus. So there's really no one size fits all to any wicked problem, but scratching the surface on a more measurable portion of the community is definitely a step in the right direction. We get into our problem statement that globally the wealthiest 1% own nearly as much as the poorest 99%. Congress really hasn't voted to raise the minimum wage in over a decade, which is a systemic issue. Income inequality has been rising for decades in many advanced market economies, to include the United States. Increased focus on education from a fiscal policies tends to really solely focus on improving access to our post-secondary opportunities, which are by and large disproportionately available to higher incoming, more affluent groups within society. Crippling debt due to these student loans, however, even for these personnel with daily compounding interest rates, seem to make for a challenging introduction into professional life for many young professionals, and make their mark on the world and the overall societal economy pretty challenging. So for many, a traditional college or university experience may be the wrong professional path to consider. A high level of economic inequality generally means a higher level of poverty, and poverty, as we briefly mentioned earlier, can be associated with additional second and third order effects to include crime, poor public health, which places additional burdens on our economic structure. So in the face of increasing food prices and lower incomes, support for pro-growth government policy declines, whereas wealthy citizens maintain this disproportionate political power compared to our poorer citizens, which in turn kind of just continues to skew the system in favor towards more wealthy citizens in society, thereby increasing the level of inequality that we're experiencing. So incomes in the United States have plateaued for more than 3 decades after accounting for inflation. And as we continue to increase our productivity with respect to the output of our goods for services, the corresponding wage earnings for the operators truly responsible for the output haven't increased at a consistent rate. Congress has not, again, voted to raise the minimum wage in over a decade. So consequently, the division in society due to these inequalities continues to rise, in these health and social issues to include mental health, domestic violence, drug abuse, inequity of education continue to spread the gap there. Unfortunately, some skills are just valued at higher levels than others, um, which places these individuals who lack these certain abilities at a substantial disadvantage. The root causes can be difficult to identify, but often these leading corporations just tend to place their interests at increasing their profits over the interests of the working class citizens. So a high level of economic inequality generally comes with a high level of poverty. And in these unequal societies, the support tends to decline for our education programs. So in order to start to address this competing for limited resources. It's really going to require a movement and buy-in from all levels throughout society, with both private sector leadership as well as elected officials, to effectively address this issue and the corresponding symptoms that we've been addressing and speaking about. So we spent some time kind of shaping the operating environment here of the issue at a very large scale. And so now let's see if we can focus our attention to a more centralized region and approach. The decline of the U.S. coal production, as we discussed, we're going to be focusing on the state of Kentucky here. In 2020 was largely a result of less demand for coal internationally and less U.S. electric power sector demand for coal. So lower natural gas prices made the coal less competitive for power generation. And in 2019, U.S. coal generation fell nearly 20%, which is very substantial. Focusing in on Appalachian communities here, we can see the major impacts that these communities have encountered due to these recent shifts in their culture, and then leaving just a bit of a void professionally speaking. So personally, being from this area, and my wife is from this area as well, I can I can attest that these many generations thought of this as pretty much their only opportunity to attain a well-paying job that offered a good standard of living in many cases. They were probably correct. Generational opportunity loss, further widening the economic inequality gap, has led to numerous issues, as we discussed before. So the proposed approach to addressing this issue at its core is going to be an earlier investment in human capital to thereby increase the productivity in a variety of other well-paying trades and opportunities. Creating these vocational programs that are more valuable to high school teens, along with technical support opportunities for high school graduates or GED equivalent, and even potentially adults seeking opportunities to become plumbers, electricians, fiber optic technicians, etc. Creating this additional access to educational opportunities within these communities at an affordable rate is going to provide an increased opportunity for a higher level of future earning potential while benefiting the individual, future employers, and society as a whole. Collaboration with our local communities here and the existing professionals is going to be paramount to the success of this program venture. Many have already developed the skills and trades that we are building and have carved out a piece of the local state economy. According to the Better Business Bureau, however, there are 0 accredited plumbing or electrician companies within 50 miles of Pikeville, Kentucky, which is one of the few stable economies in the region due to a local college educating a student populace from the immediate surrounding area, as well as into parts of West Virginia. So in fact, there's really only one accredited plumbing service within 100 miles of Eastern Kentucky, this Eastern Kentucky hub being Pikeville at present, and they don't provide service to potential customers that exceed that 50-mile radius. So incentivizing the hiring of this well-paid trade, and plumbing being a singular example here from this region, could assist in opening up a new customer base that really drastically requires an increase in the amount of skilled professionals that are present. So another way that we're going to establish and get into the execution of this is by partnering with our key partners. And another key partner is going to be high schools in this scenario. So by encouraging these institutions to offer early entry training to future high school graduates, these juniors and seniors could be viewed as excellent recruiting resource, and more importantly, the future employees of the local economy. Introducing them to these skills at an earlier stage is going to perhaps that they perhaps wouldn't seek out these careers opportunities later in life. It increases the chances of retaining them in these career fields, as well as our educational institutions that we're going to be attempting to create here. Recruiting trainers to come to the community in order to provide adequate training is going to be an essential task here. Master electricians, plumbers, mechanics, etc. could really spearhead this training initiative that we're trying to establish. Certifying curriculum and ensuring these professionals are capable of teaching to standard is going to be a challenge, but additionally, traditionally speaking, that's going to be provided by the state government there. As an example, the Kentucky Division of Plumbing is charged with the responsibility of conducting examinations, licensing, and ensuring that our job sites that we're going to be training on are following code. Acquiring customers is going to stem from creating these relationships and creating those lasting customer relationships with those in high school education prior to graduation, conceivably allowing these students to compete and complete all requirements by the time of graduation so that they can step right into an apprenticeship if they so desire by their graduation and begin to make those strides towards becoming fully licensed as they receive their high school diplomas. Um, Only customers and other customers may come from adults, perhaps seeking a career change later in life, in which we can provide them the skills to do so in a very short amount of time at a much more affordable rate than you might experience in a traditional college glide path. So again, many initial training glide paths can be completed in as little as 3 months, depending on the discipline chosen, and in full-time trajectory, if the possible customer traditionally is not going to exceed the timeline between 6 months and a year, again, depending on the uh, career path that they decide to embark upon. So the customer segments, the training facilities that we're going to require in order to approach this is going to need to be created or identified from repurposed existing infrastructure. Renovations could be done on existing locations, but the cost and longevity of this would likely favor improved infrastructure that's going to last longer into the future. Partnering with existing training facilities that provide similar educational opportunities could be the opportunity that provides the most immediate impact here. An example of one such installation that already exists is Big Sandy Community and Technical College in Pikeville, Kentucky, that offers training in welding and welding technology. Our entity could potentially utilize their infrastructure to create a mutually beneficial additional training opportunities and career prospects that they don't currently have, while providing them with additional training opportunities. Um, Adding these programs to additional or an already existing technical institution would add them as a key partner and efficiently blend them with our other key resources of experienced educators in technical trade fields. So institutions that offer on-the-job training and skilled trades can provide massive advantages to these customers. We're going to provide an education outlet that will result in requiring a new skill set that provides them a competitive payment at a fraction of the cost of a traditional four-year degree. Additionally, these customers are going to have the opportunity to focus on their training and training alone without the requirement of having additional elective classes that we all have come to know and love in our traditional education glide path that these colleges and universities typically require. Smaller class sizes, additionally, that we can establish will coincide with an institution such as ours to provide a more individualized learning environment for these potential customers that's going to allow more hands-on to be shared along with career knowledge and mentorship from the faculty and staff. So in conclusion, an increased focus on education from fiscal policies tends to focus solely on improving access to post-secondary education, which again, by and large, disproportionately favors and is available to higher income earning groups. The crippling debt that we discussed earlier with daily compound interest rate makes achieving this education goals a challenge for many. And for many, this may may force them to seek other paths in life because a traditional college or university experience may just be the wrong professional path to consider. So it can really be difficult to get buy-in. Some of the potential challenges that we're going to encounter. It can be difficult to get buy-in from the members of the community on increased educational focus. And these types of individuals that are drawn towards trades generally don't favor institutional learning environments. So as we prioritize a segment of our workforce, it's really vital to communal success and one that generally receives less educational investment from the start. I feel that we can really show the benefits of seeking these affordable opportunities and this increased investment in human capital and how it really has the potential to be very lucrative in most any society, specifically the ones that are plagued most with economic inequality due to professional limitations that they may have. So altering our approach to investment in human capital at an early stage is um, an individual investment in providing an educational outlet for these desired trades to experienced adults can provide greater career opportunities that I really and truly believe is going to increase the earning potential and assist in curbing that income inequality that we're encountering. Here's some of the references that I utilized. Again, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate your patience and appreciate you viewing my Tribe Talk. Thanks so much.